when I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. I ought to. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a unquanoma. Me make cry about for it. Me yet me to me. I'm reswan. Eko. When I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. I ought to. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a unquanoma. Me make cry about for it. Me yet me to me. I'm reswan. Eko.
Welcome back on the AM show. Some say Wahala never did finish for this country. We've heard the special prosecutor, Kissi Agyebeng, say that, listen, he's basically offering himself like a libation, pouring out of himself, and that when he starts something, he does his best at it. But we were taken by surprise yesterday when we heard that there was a petition to remove the special prosecutor and the person behind it. Yes, forwarded by the president to the Chief Justice, but the person behind it, that was what got tongues wagging. Martin Burns Kaiser Amidu. Alamisi Amidu was the person who had put this petition together. The question is, why? What is in there? Well, joining me in the studio, Kweku Asante. He's our man on the beat. He's been following this matter. He joins me in the studio. Kweku, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Kweku is in the studio. We also have Bobby Banson. He's a lawyer. He joins the conversation. And we also have Edem Senanu, an anti-graft campaigner, joining the conversation. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Bobby, can I hear from you, please?
Good morning, Ben. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Mr. Senanu, I guess when my show is done today, I'll give you a buzz. There's something interesting to share with you later on. But thank you for connecting. Let's situate the conversation from the studio, gentlemen. Just hold for me. What exactly is happening? How did this even come about?
Well, so we understand Martin Alemisu Burns Kaiser Amidu, the former special prosecutor, filed the petition dated April 30, 2024, directed at the President Akufo-Addo to remove Kissi Agyebeng as special prosecutor. And it's on several grounds. We'll get into that. And we also now understand that the President, by a cover letter dated May 6, 2024, has forwarded this petition to the Chief Justice. Obviously, that is what the Constitution dictates when you're removing someone whose term of office and whose status of office is analogous to that of a Court of Appeal judge. So that process would have to unravel itself. And so by that May 6 letter, the Chief Justice is expected to determine whether there is a prima facie case, whether on the face of the petition there is something for the special committee that would normally probe this to look into. So Martin Amidu is mainly alleging procurement breaches. He says that in the purchase of some vehicles for the special prosecutor, there were certain procurement breaches. And procurement breaches has been one of the reasons why Madame Charlotte Say, for instance,
I was just about
was
to say.
removed. And so it has been cited by Mr. Martin Amidu as part of the reasons why he believes Kissi Agyebeng has breached his oath of office, or as it were, is no longer qualified to remain in office as special prosecutor. He's also alleging abuse involving judges and administration of justice. We know in that inset that you played of Kissi Agyebeng was talking about how concerned he was about the way judges were actually hearing his cases that he has filed in court. And so he came out gun blazing that he believed that certain judges may be aiding the cause of injustice. And so he spoke about that. It has been cited in this petition as has been filed by Martin Amidu that conduct of Kissi Agyebeng is not worthy of the office and he must be removed as part of that. He also alleged violations of citizens' rights through arrest and detentions, violations of the rights to information and improper appointments to personnel of the office. So these are the last grounds we'll discuss. He talks about the arrest of people like Madam Cecilia Dapada. He believes the mode in which Kissi Agyebeng and his office went about it is not worthy of the office. He talks about that. He believes that is good reason for Kissi Agyebeng to be removed. And the violation of RTR request, information request. Kissi Agyebeng, according to Martin Amidu, has refused to produce certain information about how the office is being run and the appointments, particularly of personnel. We know that Martin Amidu has been writing a lot, alleging that a special prosecutor has been appointing friends and families to the office. Talks about Sami, what's the name? The head of communications at the office of the special prosecutor, Sami Dako. Talks about how the appointment process were all undertaken. And so Martin Amidu boxed all this, and then by his April 30 petition to the president, is now asking the president to get the Chief Justice to constitute that committee, a special committee to look into this, and then make a determination that Kissi Agyebeng is not fit for office, that appointment must be revoked.
This makes for interesting reading because I'm even looking at the executive generally and some of the things that have been mentioned here. And just not out of mischief, but playing devil's advocate. Procurement breaches? The executive itself, if you look at violation of citizens' rights, appointments, let's not even go there. Some of them are interesting bits, but let's have an interaction with the legal luminaries and also the anti-graft campaigners. Let me start with you, Bobby Banson. We now know, per the information we have gathered, that in fact this has been submitted to the Chief Justice as required by Article 146 of the Constitution, and that the Chief Justice is in the process of deciding whether there is a prima facie case on this matter. Your basic understanding, your take on this matter.
Ben, good morning once again to you and your viewers. Tag of legal luminary, you want to set me up this morning?
I'm not setting you up. I'm giving you that title myself. You may not be able to blow your own trumpet. I'm blowing it for you.
Well, I mean, woke up and heard the story and I was quite shocked, of all the things that one would have expected to have happened, especially at this time of our political and democratic dispensation, would have been an attempt to remove, the attempt itself, the thoughts to remove a head of such an institution.
And the fact that it is the former occupant of that office that is attempting to do that.
Who has not hidden his personal issues. I didn't want to use the word hatred. Personal issues with the one who took over his office. I recall in some of his most recent epistles where he had stated categorically that he wants the president to intervene. Mind you, the president that this same person had once described as the mother serpent of all corruption. He now seems to be interested in the fact that he thinks the president this time would, do what he wants to be done. But we back to the procedure, as had been said. Even the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act states categorically how he should be removed. The grounds of his removal have been stated there very categorically. The grounds of incompetence. If you look at, I think it's section 15. If you've done anything, that will bring the office of the special prosecutor into disrepute.
Right.
And things like that. And if I hear the grounds that, I have not seen the petition, but from what your colleague read in the studio,
so we are looking at procurement breaches, and that's why we even brought in the case of Charlotte Osei, because those were used to get her out. The purchase of vehicles for the OSP and not following the right procedures, the OSP versus judges and the perceived rancor. There's the administration of justice, aka in the cases of the likes of the former customs as a SEPS person, the likes of Cecilia Dapa and how it's been arrested, addressed than arrest and detentions and giving out information, RTI, among others. Those are the bits encapsulated in what Martin Amidu is saying.
Well, if you listen to what you have said carefully, it brings to mind whether or not, one, the fact that the OSP, for instance, goes to court and he loses, does it mean that he's exhibited gross incompetence? I mean, it's not every prosecution that is done by the Attorney General that he wins. Does it mean that he's been incompetent? It's not every lawyer that goes to court that wins. Does it mean that the lawyer is incompetent? I do not think that is the intention of the framers of that particular provision. But it's a process that we must all respect. It is his right, Mr. Amidu, to petition. The president referring the petition to the Chief Justice is in discharge of the obligation or the duty of the president when he receives the petition. Now, the Chief Justice is the one that must decide whether there's a prima facie case. And so a lot of attention will be on the Chief Justice's office, whether on the face of the petition that has been received. I expect that the Chief Justice may, even though the law does not require her to, may even ask Mr. Agyebeng to give a primary or a preliminary response before she makes a determination whether there's a prima facie case. The prima facie case definition is not that you have concluded, but on the face of it, there's a case to answer. And so if the Chief Justice, I'm sure that Mr. Amidu must have attached evidence of these so-called grounds for removal to enable the Chief Justice to make a prima facie case. So the mere mention of those things in the petition without, for example, if you say that there has been procurement breaches, I expect that he must be detailed with the evidence. Remember, there's a public procurement authority where, per their law, if there are procurement breaches, you must have gone through that process and that procedure as well. And so it is not the office of the Chief Justice that will determine whether there has been a procurement breach before. So it's only a prima facie thing that the Chief Justice will do based on the evidence that has been attached, so that the burden of proof will shift on the special prosecutor.
Hello, Bobby?
And so, okay. Hello, Ben.
Yes, I lost you for about 2 seconds, but it's fine. You can go ahead.
Okay, Ben. So I hope that indeed Mr. Amidu attached evidence to every single allegation to enable the Chief Justice come to that conclusion that there is a case for Mr. Agyebeng to answer. If it was mere, like we see in his epistles, what he writes without attaching evidence that will shift the burden of Mr. Agyebeng, perhaps the Chief Justice will come to the conclusion that there is no prima facie case to determine, and then we will take it from there. But moving from that, you know, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is an institution that Ghana, by virtue of international treaties we have signed, is obliged to have. So it is not as if it was a mere campaign promise. It was an international obligation by virtue of a treaty we had signed to have. And so if we are treating this office, for lack of a better way, like Chaskele, everybody can throw shades by virtue of the personality occupying it. We are undermining the institution that we are creating to fight our biggest problem as a country. Our biggest problem as a country is corruption. Nobody would dispute that. If we save half of the money that we lose to corruption, we will not go to IMF. And so if one of the most independent institutions that we've established in line with international obligations and by virtue of our own statutory provisions, we keep addressing the personalities of those institutions and not the institution itself, building strong institutions like Mr. Ex-President Obama said, whoever takes that office will also be, we'll look at that person in a certain way. Because it is as if somebody is there, we don't like what the person is doing, then we want to remove that person. I was not happy with the way and manner Ms. Charlotte Osei was removed. And if there's an attempt, and the same with Dom Levo, if there's an attempt to harass Mr. Agyebeng because perhaps some people are not happy with the way he's going about his work, I think that it would defeat this whole fight against corruption, and then posterity will not forgive us. We should be very mindful of some of our actions, and I'm very confident in the capacity and ability of the Chief Justice to make a determination. I have not seen the evidence. I hope there is for a prima facie case, but if it is what you have said without any evidence attached, the mere epistle, for lack of a better word, I do not see how a prima facie case would be established from there.
Well, interesting, isn't it? I mean, the presidency was pretty quick with this one. I mean, we're still battling the LGBT bill and all of that. But in this instance, as directed by law, because again, if you were to go back to the LGBT conundrum, he should have either signed or declared that he wouldn't assent. But we know how that has turned out. In this instance, it has been forwarded. But let me go to Edem Senanu briefly on the same point. Edem, did this take you aback? Were you left in shock when you heard that this petition had been sent to the president, forwarded to the Chief Justice, and by none other than the former special prosecutor, Martin Amidu? How did you take the news?
Well, good morning. And yes, I was thoroughly taken aback. I mean, it seems to me that from day one, my good friend, and I like to call him Martin Ben Kaiser-Amizi Amidu, appeared to have been on a vendetta. It looked like nobody should occupy that office who is able to do much more or shine more than me, you know. And so there have been all these epistles and comments. And for me, to the credit of the current office holder, Mr. Kissi Agyebeng, he's refused to jump into that public discourse of blow for blow kind of, you know, when Martin says this and so on and so forth. And that's really disappointing. Very disappointing for me. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned also because of the inconsistencies. And Bobby pointed out to it. I mean, you can't call the president and the presidency the mother serpent of all corruption in one breath, and in the next breath be writing to the same institutions and saying somebody else should be removed, and believing and apparently trusting those same institutions.
Right.
It's kind of flip-flopping, leaves us with the impression that you can change your stand at any time on issues. And so it's a big concern for me. Also because, like you've pointed out, the last person you're expecting to be out there consistently just raising voices, when, in my view, he did not do as much as he ought to have done when he was in that position. And he actually sent us to the dry cleaners by exiting all of a sudden to the point where you had authority you could have exercised. And yet you come back and you seem to be attacking the current office holder. Some of the things you've mentioned, like speaking against the judges, I find incredulous. I mean, if office holders as high up as the OSP cannot speak their minds when they think something is going wrong. And for me, I thought that was important because the judiciary responded. The Chief Justice then reached out and said, let's have discussions. And from where I stand, one of the key things that has been on my mind is how do agencies like the OSP and the anti-corruption agencies work with the judiciary to have fast-track anti-corruption courts with personnel trained, specialized personnel who understand our terrain.
And that was you can forecast that was his intention. In fact, if you follow the rhetoric, that was his intention. But hold for me, Edem, just briefly. Hold for me. Let me bring in Daniel Yao Domelevo. He has been there and done that. He joins the conversation. Mr. Domelevo, thank you for joining the conversation on the AM show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, it appears to be a script that is playing out again, but I believe Martin Amidu is a friend of yours, and your friend is taking on the new occupant of his office. But let's start off with whether this was some sort of shock, it had any shock value for you, and then what it means, because you've gone through a similar process and been ousted from an institution of state. Your take.
Thank you very much. I must say yes and no. Yes, because if you remember, I've stated time and again that once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back using any means available. So that is not a surprise to me at all. But where it is coming
wait,
from...
Mr. Domelevo, so you feel in this instance where Martin Amidu, former special prosecutor, petitions the president forwards it to Chief Justice, are you telling me that you feel it is corruption fighting back against institutions? Is that what is happening?
You have no idea how corruption fights. Corruption is not going to fight using corrupt methods. It's going to pretend and use what looks like very genuine reasons. And I always say that there is a story behind the story. So the story behind the story is difficult for all of us to know. But what I'm just trying to say is that to me, once you are in the public domain fighting people, others may also look for opportunity to fight you back. That's the point I'm making. And that is, to me, not a surprise. But where it's coming from is what surprises me, because, Martin is my very good friend, and we have different values. Anyway, I will not participate in any form or shape in the removal of my successor from office. In fact, in his case, even I can say that he resigned. I don't think Kissi Agyebeng played any role in it. I suspect the one who succeeded me had a role to play in my removal, but I will not play any role as such. So, but the fact
so do you find it odd that the person petitioning is Martin Amidu? Do you find it odd? Do you feel even if this were to come up, it shouldn't be Martin Amidu?
Yes, at times some things you can do it, but you leave it to other people to do it. Because like Senanu is alluding to, it looks like, because he's outshining him, so you want to remove him out of office, which to me, I will not allow such a situation to arise before people will even impute those intentions into my action.
Let me ask you this. We saw some happenings in respect of procurement breaches that were used to oust Charlotte Osei. Then your case. Now, the current special prosecutor. Is there a line that can be drawn through all of these? Because all of these have also happened within these last 7 years. Is there a pattern? What are we doing wrong?
The pattern is that they use procurement offenses only when it suits them. Didn't we hear of procurement offenses about the EC, the current EC, and several others, even the presidency itself? And how do they treat them? They are treated with kids' gloves. It's only when you are on the other side, you are not like, then they activate the procurement offense against you. So I know that nobody is above the law and everybody is supposed to go according to the law. But then the selectivity in using this procurement law is becoming one too many for my liking. Several huge procurement offenses are known and to all of us and are not being addressed, but they pick on individuals who they think they should pick on, and they talk about procurement offenses. I'm not saying that justifies the procurement offense if there is any, but I think well, let's see how it pans out. I have not seen the details of the petition. I've only heard of the petition, so it's very difficult for me to go into the merit of the cases. I am very sure that the Chief Justice will do the needful, and we will know what the outcome will be later.
Let me come back to you briefly, Adam, before I go back to Bobby Vanson, because I had to truncate your thoughts for a bit. We've got to this point. For Mr. Domelevo, he feels there are some machinations at play. Maybe in the end to oust Kissi Agyebeng. Maybe he's becoming too much of a thorn in some pieces of flesh. But maybe not, because they are citing legal elements, procurement breaches, treating people unfairly, and immediately springing to mind Sisi Dapai and the rest. Is there a ploy, do you feel? And if not, do you think this does not even merit our time, that it should be thrown out?
Well, I mean, I think that's always important to allow, like Mr. Domologo has said, allow the processes to go on. We cannot begin to try and curtail or say there is no evidence. I mean, these are the rights of citizens. The processes must be followed. However, absolutely yes. I mean, to be honest with you, in the recent past, I don't think any of the anti-corruption agencies have done for us what the OSP has done, in spite of all its difficulties, including the fact that it took till last quarter of 2023 for them to now begin engaging staff. I mean, prior to then, they probably had just about 10, 15 people all the way from 2018 to September 2023. So the bulk of the issues that they've worked on, they have been understaffed. And so for those of us who understand the logistics in the office and what has gone on, we think that the OSP has to a very large extent served this purpose by raising their flag, picking up issues when they came into the public domain, indicating an interest, giving us feedback every 6 months, in spite of all these challenges. And we haven't had that kind of, high-profile feedback taken on of issues by other anti-corruption agencies. And so that has left the field wide open. Clearly, the corruption fights back when you are fighting corruption. We begin to wonder, is it the government of the day that is attempting to make sure that this gentleman who seems to be taking up issues they probably don't want him to take up and trying to take a trajectory on it, make sure the institution does all the investigations. Is it the current government or is it Martin himself? Because it's actually quite very odd that Martin should be taking this path. So it doesn't serve our fight well. And as Mr. Domologo said, it would have been much better, clearly, that even if Martin felt that these were substantive issues, he should have allowed other people to take it up, because it doesn't look good at all. It looks like Martin has a vendetta, and we are wondering, is he being influenced because there is a bigger issue? Somebody doesn't want Kissi Agyebeng in office. And these are matters that all of us as citizens must be concerned about as we approach an election, and we don't know what kind of transition we'll have. Perhaps who knows what is going to go on in terms of more procurement issues, even higher up, and they don't want anybody looking at it.
Let me come to you, Bobby Banton, before maybe in some 30 seconds I take final thoughts from all of you. A case of sour grapes, maybe. You do know that even in recent times, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has had his own vehement disagreements with the Special Prosecutor on the handling of the Cecilia Dapa case, forwarded to Iyoko, the AG saying baseless, throw it out, and all of that, and the OSP's response. What do you see, what do you think this could culminate in as far as the Chief Justice's end is concerned? What are some of the processes that can be expected?
Well, like I said, if the petition filed had evidence attached where the Chief Justice thinks there's a prima facie case, the committee will be set up to investigate. The membership of the committee has been well set out in the OSP Act. Yes, that will not be in dispute. But if the Chief Justice thinks that these are mere allegations, averments on the face of it without any evidence, I expect her to come to the conclusion that there is no prima facie case. And nobody should be fooled. The Chief Justice is a very independent person. If we see her utterances in some of the cases, whatever, I mean, in an administrative authority, as she has, that she thinks is the best at that point in time, she will do it. And so I expect some fairness from her at that point in time. Now, but
interestingly, in the court of public opinion, it's not looking very good for one side, and I'm sure you know that side. In the court of public opinion, there are lots of questions. People asking, wait a minute, just hold it right there. What is going on? You know what I mean? What do you think in that court of public opinion? Though legally, it doesn't hold water. What do the optics? What do they convey?
No, I say that the office of the Chief Justice has two jurisdictions, the administrative jurisdiction and the judicial jurisdiction, played by the same person. In exercising that administrative jurisdiction, it's completely at his or her discretion. If you think that the discretion has not been exercised rightly, the Constitution provides for the way for you to do it. In the judicial decision, the Chief Justice never sits alone. She always sits with 5, with 7, with 9. And so it will be very difficult to say that she has single-handedly influenced every other person that she sat with to take a certain judicial decision. It's very difficult. You may not win your case all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that something has gone. That is why, I say that no matter how thin you slice a bread, there will always be two sides. Definitely somebody will not be happy. But with the administrative role, it's completely at her discretion. If she exercises it and you are not happy, the Constitution provides for ways to bring it up. And we've seen cases filed by lawyers personally against some of the administrative decisions taken by the Chief Justice. And we are going through the process. There are instances where even courts have decided contrary to administrative decisions of the Chief Justice. So the judiciary is not as, or is as independent as it can get. Let me put it that way. And contrary to what people think it is. Sometimes the problem is political actors, politicians putting spins, their own interpretation, just to malign it. But I always say that, listen, let the judiciary play its course. There are always remedies available to you. Now, back to the Attorney General.
So briefly on that, because of time, that's the final bit for you.
Yes. When there was that discourse between the Attorney General and the EOCO and the Office of Special Prosecutor, for me, it lends credence to the argument that it is time we separate the Office of the Attorney General from the Ministry of Justice. Completely. Because that was a clear case of the person exercising that authority as the Attorney General, saying something contrary to a supposedly independent institution that we have set up and resourced to carry out investigations of corruption and corruption-related offenses against all persons, including politically exposed persons. Now, imagine if the Attorney General office was also independent. At least they would have said, go to court with the evidence presented to you by the OSP and let the court come to a final conclusion. But here you have the Office of the Attorney General, who is a political appointee, the Minister of Justice, who is also the same person, political appointee, and the target of the investigation is also a political appointee. If we don't separate those two offices, it will be very difficult for us to get far with independent investigations and prosecution of politically exposed persons. And so, back to the OSP situation, I am really looking forward to how this will pan out. But we have international agencies looking at this, for sure, because I'm sure there's been a lot of funding of the OSP office by donors, international agencies. And so if they think that the political actors are not interested in this, then we will look like a joke. You can't go around saying something else and then doing something else at home. So this is a test case, and I hope we come out of it as a country with our reputation intact.
Litmus test our reputation on the line. Bobby Manson, thank you. Let me bring in Daniel Yaw-Domelevo. Final thoughts on this matter. What are your expectations?
Well, let the case continue and we see how it pans out. But I personally am sad about the development because it may not encourage too many people to volunteer to fight in anti-graft as we expect or want it in our country. But be it as it may, it doesn't matter how well you are doing. If you fall foul of the law must take its course. So let's see how the law pans out. And I hope at the end of the day, we will all emerge victorious as a country.
Thank you, Daniel Yaw-Domelevo. Let me also bring in Adam Senanu. You have the final word.
Well, thank you. I quite disappointed in Mr. Martin Ben Kaiser-Lamisi Amidu. I think that he could have served us much better in terms of the anti-corruption fight, even if he felt this was an issue, to get others to champion it. I'm not quite sure it's going to contribute positively to the fight. I'm quite sure the Chief Justice will give the Special Prosecutor the opportunity to respond, and hopefully that should allow us to see a much more objective way forward in terms of the responses. I don't know whether that will be made public, but hopefully it will give us a lot more confidence that the systems are working for us. And I am just concerned. I hope that the government and nobody in the government has a hand in this, because we do need these institutions to move our nation forward. And let's see how things pan out.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. You just heard anti-graft campaigner Senanu. They're pretty surprised by this development. We also had Bobby Banson, a lawyer, and we also had former Auditor General Daniel Yao Domelevo. Well, there's still more to expect on the AM show. We'll be right back with more details on cement prices, on the rains yesterday, and on other developments. We'll be right back.
When I was sworn in, and in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a unkwanoma. Me de me cry abo afore. Me ye de me to me. Emre so a ekọ.